This is a very dark time, not only for our family, but for journalism generally. We are devastated, shocked and dismayed at this finding. We're not usually a family of superlatives, but I have to say this morning my vocabulary fails to convey just how shattered we are. Of course, we were hoping for something entirely different. Although we considered a range of other outcomes, you can never prepare yourself for something as painful as this. However, we are absolutely determined and committed to continue this battle until Peter, as well as his colleagues, are all out of prison and free to do and go wherever they decide. The campaign for media freedom and free speech must never end. We trust that the large number of supporters and people interested in this matter will continue and swell. There will always be people, governments, and institutions wanting to limit the speaking of one's mind and telling the way we see it. The protection of the right to freely express ourselves is always going to be relentless. To us, it is not just affecting the Greste family. We put it to you that it is also a slap in the face and a kick in the groin to Australia, as well as all fair-minded people around the world. We seem to be at polar opposites on the basic things that matter in civil society. And when I say on polar opposites, I'm sure you understand who else is on the other side of the pole. We know that we and Peter have the support of a large number of the international community. This gives us strength. This family is certainly determined to battle on. Journalism is not a crime, or you should all be behind bars. It's as simple as that. This man, our son Peter, is an award-winning journalist. He's not a criminal. He's not a criminal. Thank you.
How has this news affected your health during the past few hours?
Well, we're here, we're fine. I mean, we haven't slept very much, but otherwise, you know, our health is okay.
Have you got a message from Peter, or have you been able to get a message to him?
We haven't been able to speak to Peter, and neither have Andrew or Mike yet. They will go in today, my message to Peter is personal.
What options does the family have now regarding an appeal?
Well, we've got to consider all options, and until we have all of those on the table and have information about everything, we cannot make a decision.
What would your message be to the Egyptian president?
I beg your pardon?
What would your message be to the Egyptian president?
Well, we really don't feel that it's appropriate, certainly at a press conference like this, to message anybody anything. as Lois said, we really have to consider all the options. As you will understand, our family is by no means the only party involved. We have to conference with all the other groups and institutions and parties involved. It's been really a very few hours since the news reached us. Clearly, we're still in a state of shock. I have to admit that I have difficulty thinking straight. We've all had very fragile sleeps, and we really have to settle down and recover ourselves a little before we can start planning forward.
Has the Foreign Minister or any Australian politicians been in touch with you after the government?
Yes, Julie Bishop rang us almost very soon after the verdict came in, maybe an hour or so later.
Before
she did the press conference.
Yes, before her press conference about 10 o'clock last night.
How did you hear of the verdict?
We watched it on through Twitter and Skype. We had someone over there who was messaging us on Skype.
You previously indicated you would travel to Cairo. Is that still your plan at the moment?
It's an option.
Well, as we've said, we really at this point haven't made any plans. But I guess it would be obvious to everybody that the time that Peter's brothers, Andrew and Mike, have been able to give to support Peter has its limitations. And so, yes, clearly we will be seriously thinking about that.
What assurances were you given by the Egyptian government through this whole ordeal, specifically?
Other than the letter from the president, the interim president, that's the only communication we've had from the Egyptian government. Oh, I should change that. We also have had spoken to the Egyptian ambassador.
But more specifically, we haven't been given any assurances. I don't want to, I don't want to suggest that anybody's been misleading us, but clearly the messages that we did get from the Egyptian authorities did truly give us great confidence, certainly for everything other than this outcome.
They did say that we would have to wait for the case to go through the judicial system. So that's the only basic thing. And that has now happened, so we'll see where the next phase goes.
One of the Bishop last night said that she firmly believed that the Australian government had really done everything they possibly could to assist Peter. Are you satisfied that that's the case? That
Very definitely, and she will also. She also said last night that she will continue doing what they already have done and more.
Mrs. Greste, you know Peter better than anybody. How do you think he's holding up?
I know Peter is being very, very strong, and this will be a hard time for him, but I know that he'll get through it. And Mike and Andrew are going in today. They'll support him, and he'll be okay. But I mean, I can imagine that he's as shocked as we are, and absolutely probably finding it very difficult at this point. But he'll get through that, and he'll be fine.
And dare I say, he needs to know that you are all here, because truly I don't want to inflate this, but it's as much about all of you as it is about Peter now. It is true that our first and immediate concern after his arrest was to try and get Peter out, obviously, as parents. But it's reached the point now where, as I say, you step outside the boundaries of Australia, and it could be the sort of risks that any of you are facing.
Mr. Greste, have you had any advice from the Australian government about any implications for Peter's prison accommodation in Cairo about this, and do you have any concerns about that? Could he be moved to a worse prison, for example?
We have no knowledge of where he might be accommodated in what jail or anything at this point. But
Yes. Yeah.
so we just have to wait and see.
Is the expectation that he might be moved from the current?
It's a possibility, we don't know. And I mean, I can't imagine that they could continue for 7 years in a cell, the three of them, in a 4x3 metre cell. It's difficult enough.
What we have been informed, understandably, is that up until the verdict, he was within the domain of the prosecution. Now that he is a convicted criminal, he comes under a different jurisdiction. So clearly one can expect that he would move to at least a different part of the prison, and understandably that is of our also prime concern. As to what other options there are, you might recall that Prime Minister Abbott being asked whether Australia has any extradition arrangements with Egypt, whereby he could be transferred to Australia to serve the rest of his sentence. That is unclear at the moment.
Your hopes now hang on a presidential pardon.
It's one of the options. We're not going to talk any further about, what that entails at the moment.
Things you are hoping for.
Absolutely, that would probably be the very first thing, but that's one of them.
Because I imagine you wouldn't be fancying your chances on the appeals court, would you?
Oh, I don't know about that, but that's a longer process. We have to wait.
What pains me personally is the knowledge that where he's been held, certainly by Australian standards, would be considered conditions of severe punishment. Now, if anything like that continues, I'm depressed at the thought that he might have to stay in a place like that for the duration of the appeals processes, which I understand can last sometimes months, many months.
Nobody can understand this as well as you. What goes through your heart of hearts as you sat there last night and as you sit there now as a parent to know that your beloved son is in a cell in a foreign country? How do you deal with that? What goes through your mind?
Words can't describe it. We have no words for it.
Truly, it is beyond description. However, as we said before, there is no choice. We have to fight for this matter. We have to fight for Peter, and we have to fight for his other two colleagues, and for the cause, for the sake of media freedom. It's as simple as that. I mean, you cannot leave yourself in a state of panic and utter confusion. You just have to, reach a level of coherence where you can go on, and that's the only way.
And right now we're really not in that level of coherence or process. We're still absorbing last night's decision.
What have you made overnight of Egypt coming out and defending international criticism of the judicial process there, saying that it is fair and independent?
No comment.
Look, really, we cannot comment on that. Apart from anything else, you're probably ahead of us as to what else is out in the media of, other commentaries.